to create a brand new employee. How's that? Let's create a brand new employee. So to do that, in the presumably we would like in the HTML we would like an input field where we can type perhaps the name or username of our brand new employee. So let's create an input field, and we have to tie this to a field in our component. So let's go back to our component and declare data that we can listen to, like a username. Username, and this is a string. And we also want a function that we can call and create a brand new employee. So this would be create employee, and we're gonna create a new employee. And the only thing we have right now is just a username. We don't have anything else. So we're gonna just pass in this username. And then we would like to send that over to the service, right? But we don't have that yet. So let's right now just do a console.log the new employee. Okay. All right. So here let's do an input field, and we're gonna tie the username. We're gonna tie it to a model, ng model. It's complaining because I don't have that. That module is not loaded by default, just like the HTTP module is not loaded by default. The form, dealing with forms, is also not loaded by default. So we need to load that as well. We need to go to the module and load the form module, import the form module. There it is. We loaded it. And register it as a separate module. Form module. There it is. Okay, now it should not complain anymore. There it is. Okay, so it doesn't complain anymore. So we tied this input field. Whatever I type in this input field will be available on the component side. And then we'll need a button here. We'll need a button that we can click and say create. Yes? I'm going to tie this button to a click command event that's going to be handled by create employee. Right? Let's see if this is rendering. There's our create. Right? Notice that these variables, these username variables, can be used anywhere. Right? So they're bound. So what as I type, notice that it updates wherever it is that they're being displayed. What we care about is being sent over to the components when we click on create employee. So let's do that. Let's try this. Let's open up the console. See if when we click here, notice that there it is. See the username, right? So we are hitting that event handler, and it's displaying whatever I type here, right? It's creating the object to be sent over to the server. So let's now send it over to the server. So instead of just displaying it on the console, I'm going to do something. We're going to do something like this, right? We want to send this over to the service to a function of the same name, create employee, and we'd like to pass in the new employee data. I'm going to pass it here as an argument. It doesn't exist yet. We need to implement it, right? So let's implement it. Let's implement create employee in the service here. Let's create it over here. The same URL. We're going to use the same exact URL. Okay, but a couple of differences. Instead, what are you complaining about? Oh, we don't have an employee ID. Yeah, actually, there is an employee ID, so let's remove that. Also, instead of a delete, again, following RESTful ideas, to create new data, we use post. Right? It goes out to the URL, and we're going to pass in also the data that we're creating as argument, new employee, and hopefully it comes back with a list of the old users plus this new user that we got. All right. All right. So let's do that. Let's if we now refresh and we try to create something new. If we click on create, notice that it's complaining, saying that there's no one on the other side listening for a post request. Right. The server is not listening for any post. So let's go on the server. Let's go on to the server side, And let's implement that, right? And I think it was over here. Let's listen in for an incoming post. And it'll be implemented in a create employee. This is on the server side, right? And it will look very, very similar to our get. Actually, no, it'll look like our delete employee. So let's copy that, right? And let's rename it. And here's our create employee. I'm sorry? Create employee. Where? As long as I'm consistent. So employee. There we go. Thank you. There we go. Excellent. So I don't need an ID. I do need the actual data from the client, right? I need the new employee. And that's going to be encoded as part of the body coming from the client. So I'm going to have to parse it out from the body. Okay? And I'm going to pass it to my create employee in the model, which we already have, right? We already have the create model. I just have to pass in the new data for the new employee. And then it'll go and fetch the list of employees, which hopefully will include our brand new employee that we added there. This is actually going to fail because Node.js doesn't know how to parse data from the body. Right? It doesn't know how to do that. So to do that, to be able to load things from the body, we're going to need to load an additional library that knows how to parse specific things from the body. And that's the npm install body parser. Okay? And it's configured. We need to configure it too. It's configured right here. Let's look for a body parser. Where is it? There it is. There it is. I'm going to, body parser. Let's load that in our server. Let's go back to our server. Let's see, where is it? Right there. Let's load our body parser library at the beginning. Okay, there it is, body parser. And let's configure it. Let's turn it on so that it knows how to parse JSON. Okay. All right, so let's try that again. Let's restart the server now, and let's restart our Angular on the client side, and that's gonna take a couple seconds. And it's loading. It's listening to at 4200. So let's see. All right, let's see if it loaded. Let's refresh. Okay, let's try it. If we add here Dan, we can send them back. Notice that Dan gets added, right? Notice that the way this works is that in the network, right? Notice that there was an option asking to see if we could do a post, right? Why isn't this? I can't make this bigger. No. Let's refresh. Let's do it again. Let's create Joe. Let's clear this. Let's do a create. Notice that first there's a query to say, hey, is it okay to do a post? And this comes back saying, yeah, sure, I can do a post. And then here's the actual data that went out, right? The post. Here's a post that was generated. And notice that the data that was sent over was username Joe, sent over to the server. And the server responded with a list of all the employees, and then it will render on the client side. Does that make sense? Right? So yeah, so we did a list, all of them. We did a delete, right? We did a create a brand new one. We need to do perhaps an update, right? And we can do that next.